in one of the most shocking trades you will ever see. Today, the Padres acquired Josh Hader from the Milwaukee Brewers for Taylor Rogers, Dinelson Lamet, Robert Gasser, who is a solid prospect, and Esteury Ruiz, who is another filler prospect. A 4-for-1 deal that should have never been made. The only reason why the Brewers made this trade was because they knew that Hader was going to walk next year, and that them being in the middle of a playoff race, his value would never be higher, and a team would have to give up a lot to pry him away, which is exactly what the Padres did. This trade highlights a big issue in Major League Baseball. The clubs that have money and spend money to compete, like the San Diego Padres, versus the teams that are in a small to mid-market and don't have the resources or refuse to use the resources to compete, which is the case of the Milwaukee Brewers. The only reason why you would ever make this deal is because you know that you are not paying an elite closer what he deserves to be paid. And that is exactly why the Brewers traded Josh Hader at this point in time. I absolutely love this trade for the San Diego Padres. They're moving on from a guy that they brought in this offseason to be their closer who has failed at the role in Taylor Rogers, and another guy who was struggling to pitch in relief in Lamet, along with two prospects that are not in their immediate plans for the future. And they packaged that together to get the best, most consistent closer in Major League Baseball for the last 4 years in Josh Hader. For the Brewers, this sends the absolute worst possible message to not only their roster, but also their fan base. I hate the trade for them. They are giving up defined roles that guys are comfortable in. Williams is very, very good in the 7th and 8th inning. He is arguably the best setup man in baseball this year with what he does in that role. They are now moving him out of that into a wishy-washy, depending on the handedness. You might be closing, you might be pitching in the 8th inning every night. You're not sure where you are, to complement Taylor Rogers in the same role. I can't stand bullpens by committee. They rarely, if ever, actually work out. One of the most overlooked aspects of professional sports is defined bullpen roles, and the hardest thing to find in the sport is a 5-tool superstar batter. After that, the hardest thing to find in the sport is a top-flight legitimate ace. The third hardest thing to find in Major League Baseball is a shutdown, consistent closer. And the Brewers had that, and he was a crucial part of the team's formula and success. And it has gotten them to the point where they are leading the NL Central, and they are dark horses to win the World Series. They have a legit chance to win the World Series. And what did they do? They traded the guy that guarantees they are going to be shutting you down with a lead in the 9th inning, all because they think he's going to walk next year. Not this year, not this offseason. We're talking 17 months down the line, they might not re-sign him. This is a terrible, terrible deal that the Brewers made. It is one that is injustifiable. You can't sell it to your fan base. Worry about next year. Worry about this year. You know what made a lot of sense for this team, given the weak NL Central that they play in, and a couple of bats to the lineup that's struggling. And then all of a sudden, you got Corbin Burns, you got Brandon Woodruff. They pitch in the playoffs and give the ball off to Devin Williams in the middle of the 7th. He gives the ball off to Josh Hader in the 9th. You score 2 runs in those games that they pitch 4 times a series, and you got a legit chance to win 2-1 with the quality of pitching you're getting. Instead, because they're worried about 18 months down the line, because of the small mid-market mentality, the not trying to do everything to win mentality like the Dodgers, the Padres, the Mets, the Yankees, and the Astros have, the Brewers punted away their biggest advantage on the season, the biggest advantage they had on their roster, to the Padres, who's going to be a competitor in a very, very likely opponent for them in the first round of the playoffs. I couldn't stand this move less for the Brewers, and I couldn't love it more for the Padres. The Padres identified that they had 3 areas of need, and they went and got the best closer in baseball the last 3 years to fill the major void on their team, and now they just need to go get a depth starter and another bat. So congratulations, Padres fans. You guys clearly have ownership that's going to constantly push the envelope, do everything they can to try and win. It is a great feeling to have ownerships that cares, ownership that goes for it each and every single year, and that's what you guys definitely have. That trade completely signifies it to me, and for the Brewers, for their fans' sake, I really do hope that the bullpen by committee that almost never works out in this scenario. I hope Taylor and Devin pick it up and run with it, because this is going to be a massive, massive hard pill to swallow for this fan base if they punt a 3-year championship window in the middle of year 2 because ownership and the front office was worried about not being able to afford Hader a year and a half from now. It's mind-boggling to me that this trade was made. I would have never done it. On paper, you're getting a really good return for him, but when you actually look at the optics of it in the major league roster for it, this is a trade to try and ensure him leaving. It's not a trade trying to win a championship, and that is an awful message to send a fan base and to send your own players. That is going to do it for this video. Padres won the trade. We got plenty more videos to break down the rest of the trades from the deadline. If you guys enjoyed this, hit the like button, hit the sub button. I'll see you guys in the next one.